the neuroscience of learning. Hey everyone, today we are going to talk about one of the most fascinating topic in the science, the neuroscience of learning. Have you ever questioned yourself how your brain actually learns new things? How does it store memory? Why do some things seem easier to learn than other ones we try to learn? So let's jump in and learn together. First of all, let's talk about what is going on up there in our head. Our brain are like these remarkable supercomputers, but complex. Human brain has billion of these tiny cells called neurons. They constantly chatting to each other, forming new connections and rewiring themselves. It's like this massive ever-changing network. This network is the foundation of everything we remember. When we start learning something new, like playing the guitar or speaking a new language, it feels hard at first. Your brain is making new pathways. It's like making a new trail, a thick forest. It takes a lot of effort and you might feel awkward and frustrated. But here is the good part. The more you practice, the clearer the trail gets. Soon it's like a smooth path you can walk easily without thinking. Now let's zoom in a bit and talk about what's happening at the cellular level when we learn. Each of those neurons I mentioned earlier has their branch-like structure called dendrites that receive the signal from the other neurons. Then there is the long, thin part called axon that sends signal out. The space where neurons communicate with each other is called synapse, and this is where the magic of learning happens. When we learn something, the connection between neurons, these synapses, changed. They can get strong and weaker, and this ability to change is called synaptic plasticity. It's like the brain way of the saying, hey, this is important, let's make sure we remember it. There are actually two main types of synaptic plasticity. One is called long-term potentiation, which is when the connection gets stronger. The other is long-term depression, which is when they get weaker. And both are super important for the learning because they allow our brain to fine-tune their connection. But it gets even cooler when we look at the molecular level. When a neuron fires, it releases the chemical called neurotransmitter into the synapse. These bind to receptor on the receiving neurons, potentially causing it to fire as well. And with repeated activation, the received neuron can actually increase the number of receptors it has for the neurotransmitter and making it more sensitive to future signals. It's like your brain is upgrading its hardware in a real time. So learning can even change with the gene that express in our neurons. It's like our expression are literally rewiring our genetic code. How wild is that? Now we might wondering, okay, but how does this relate to me trying to remember or memorize stuff for an exam or learn a new skill? Well, it's turned out there are different types of the learning and memory, and they involve different part of the brain. There is this thing called the declarative memory, which is basically stuff you can occasionally recall. It's like split into two types. Semantic memory, which is general knowledge about the world, like knowing that Paris is the capital of France. And episodic memory, which is memory of the specific event in your life, like your high school graduation. These types of memory rely heavily on a part of the brain called hippocampus, which work together with various regions of the cerebral cortex. Then there is a procedural memory, which is all about the skill procedure that we perform without really thinking about them, like riding a bike, typing on the keyboard. These types of learning involve different part of the brain, particularly a structure called basal ganglia and cerebellum. We have also got working memory, which is our ability to hold and manipulate information in our mind for short periods. This is super important to things like problem solving and decision making, and it relies a lot on the part of brain called prefrontal cortex that I have talked in my video in many times. And let's not forget about the emotional memory. There is this almond shaped structure in our brain called the amygdala that's really important for the forming emotional memory. That's why we tend to remember emotionally charged events more vividly than neutral ones. So understanding these different types of memory help explain why some things are easier to learn than other and why different learning strategy might work better for the different types of information. Now let's talk about the attention because it's super crucial to learning. Our brain are constantly bombarded with the sensory information, and attention help us filter out what's irrelevant and focus on what's important. There are actually several brain networks involved in attention. One helps us stay alert and sensitive to incoming stimuli. Another helps us to select specific information, all that sensory input. And third is involved in complex mental operation and decision making. When we pay attention to something, these networks work together to enhance the neuronal representation of the attended information while suppressing representation of irrelevant information. It's like your brain is a spotlight illuminating what is important and leaving the rest in the darkness. And this is why it's often harder to learn when we are distracted or trying to multitask. Each time we switch our attention, we are essentially asking our brain to reconfigure these attention networks, which can be really cognitively demanding and reduce the efficiency of learning. So next time you are trying to study, maybe put the phone away from you. That will really help to be focused on one task. Alright, let's shift gear a bit and talk about emotion because they play a huge role in learning too. Remember that amygdala I mentioned earlier? Well, it's not just involved in forming emotional memory, it actually influences how we learn in general. When we are in the positive emotional state, we tend to be more open to new information and experiences. Our attention and focus often improve and we are more likely to engage in creative problem solving. Plus, positive emotion activate the brain rewards which can reinforce the learning. This is why creating a positive, engaging learning environment can be beneficial for us. But it's not just about the positive emotion. Stress also has a complex relationship with learning. Is it weird, right? In a small amount, the stress can actually enhance learning by increasing alertness and attention. The stress hormone cortisol can promote memory formation in the hippocampus. However, chronic or extensive stress can impair learning and memory. So high level of stress hormone can actually damage neuron in the hippocampus and interfere with its ability to form new memory. That is why it's often harder to learn when we are under significant stress. Speaking of things that can affect our learning, let's chat about sleep. I know, we all love to scheme on the sleep sometime, but trust me, it's crucial to learning and memory. Different stage of the sleep play different role in the learning and memory consolidation. During deep sleep or the slow wave sleep, our brain actually replay neuronal pattern that associated with what we have learned during the day, strengthening this memory. Then there is a REM sleep, that is called REM sleep, which is when we do most of our dreaming. This stage is important for the procedural memory and creative problem solving. So lack of sleep can really mess with our ability to learn. It reduces attention and concentration, impair the working memory and interfere with the memory consolidation. So pulling a all-nighter to study for the exam, probably not the best idea. You are better off studying regularly and getting good night's sleep before the exam. Now let's talk about the motivation, because it's a key factor in the learning. After all, we are much more likely to put effort into the learning something if we are motivated to do so. There is something called neurotransmitter, again I am saying, that is most particularly dopamine, that play a big role in the motivation and learning. It's often called the reward neurotransmitter. Although its role is more complex than which we think, but when we experience something rewarding or novel, dopamine neuron fire. This does a few things. It creates a feeling of pleasure, which reinforces the behavior that led to reward. It enhances attention and memory formation, making us more likely to remember the detail of how we obtained the reward, and it motivates us to seek out similar reward in the future. Interestingly, there are two types of the motivation from a neuroscience perspective. There is an intrinsic motivation which comes from the internal factor like curiosity or enjoyment of the task. These types of motivation activate the dopamine system directly and can lead to sustained engagement and the deeper learning. Then there is an extrinsic motivation which comes from the external factor like reward or punishment. While extrinsic motivation can be effective in the short term, it does not always lead to some depth of learning as intrinsic motivation. And that is why making learning tasks inherently interesting or challenging can often be more effective than the relying solely on the external rewards. It's tapping into that intrinsic motivation, getting our brain to release that sweet dopamine. Alright, let's talk about the practice, because we have all heard the phrase practice makes perfect, right? Well, there is actually a lot of neuroscience behind that. When we first learn a new skill, the neuronal pathway involved are weak and inefficient. It takes a lot of conscious effort to perform the skill. But as we practice, several things happen. First, synaptic connection between the neuron involved in this skill become stronger through that long-term potentiation we talked about earlier, right? So second, the neuronal pathway become more efficient, requiring less energy to activate. And third, the brain start automate the process and shifting control from the conscious area like the prefrontal cortex to more automatic region like the basal ganglia. There is also this process called myelination that happen with the practice. So myelin is the fatty substance that wrap around the axon, allowing electrical signal to travel faster and more efficiently. As we practice a skill, the axon involved that skill become more myelinated, leading to faster and more precise performance. Interestingly, spreading out the practice session over time, which is called a spaced repetition, is often more effective than cramming everything into one long session. That is because each time we recall information, we reconsolidate the memory, making it stronger and more resistant to forgetting. Now I know we have been talking a lot about the learning and remembering, but forgetting is actually the important part of how our brain functions too. Forgetting is not always just a passive process of memories fading away. Sometimes our brain actually works to forget information, and this active forgetting serves as few purposes. It helps prevent our brain from becoming overwhelming with the information. It allows us to update our knowledge when new information contradicted old information, and it can help us generalize our learning by forgetting a specific detail and learning general concept. Even the hippocampus, which is crucial for forming new memory, play a role for the forgetting. So research has shown that the birth of a new neuron in the hippocampus, a process called neurogenesis can actually promote forgetting of old memory. This may help clear out old information to make room for the new one or new learning. So the rate at which we forget information typically follows a predictable pattern known as the forgetting curve. We tend to forget a large amount of information soon after learning it, with the rate of forgetting slowing down over time. This is why review and repetition are so important to form the long retention of the information. So thank you for watching. I hope this information is useful for you, and see you in the next video.